Now, I imagine you are hearing a lot of great things about Fantastic Four. I have a feeling everyone is going to be just singing its praises. In a lot of ways, it deserves some credit because it finally makes some decisions that Marvel has desperately needed to make lately. And I really didn't imagine WandaVision's Matt Shakman would be the guy to make these decisions either. But here we are. Yet, at the end of the day, there's one crucial detail that this film is lacking that Legacy Marvel MCU had going for every single film that they dropped. And we're about to get into that. Before we do that, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all your support, of course. Now, we shouldn't compare Fantastic Four with all of the bad films or contrast it with those and say that this is the magnum opus, that this is heaven right here, heaven on earth, because it's not. You can't simply say that because we've had so much trash that this is treasure because it's so much different than what we've been getting. That's just not a good standard to set for any film, right? Don't compare it, let it stand alone as its own work. And if we think of it that way, it has a lot of problems. Before we talk about the main issue, which I will get to very quickly here soon, I think we should give this movie some credit. First off, it actually gave us 4 great characters. They were all well casted, especially Pedro Pascal. I didn't imagine he would be an interesting Reed Richards or that he would pull this off because he was really kind of advertised as a limp Reed. You know, it seemed like Sue Storm was going to do all the talking, all the thinking, and that she was going to end up running the Fantastic Four. That's also what they were saying. That's what Pedro Pascal, I believe, said at some point too, leading up to this film. And yeah, that's a pretty horrifying thought. This is Reed Richards' show. He's always been the leader. So the cast was good and the characters were all very well fleshed out. These felt like people. These did not feel like just notes, little notes, or, you know, said character with said traits. These felt like fleshed out human beings. And that's something that we desperately need in Marvel, especially from the heroes that we've been given. Because, I mean, can you imagine any of the new characters they've been dropping that have actually been interesting enough to warrant their own film or another installment into their character in the future? I sure as heck can't. Another encouraging element is that this posed a high-stakes conflict that had tremendous weight to it. And then the effects were really good. They were masterful. They looked great. It didn't look hurried or cheap. And then lastly, it wasn't trying to be funny every waking moment like Superman was. This was finally a film that we abandoned all of that. And it reminded me of the good old days when we just had characters that were serious about something, that weren't all trying to add comic relief. That we finally can breathe and we can experience different emotions with these characters because it isn't drowned out or understated by petty humor. So that's a big credit that this film deserves. Yet at the end of the day, the big problem with this movie is that there is no impact and there's no inspiration. Don't you remember the way it used to be? Back when we would see Steve Rogers, Captain America, make that sacrificial play that inspired us all to be better versions of ourselves, when he looked out for Bucky at death's door and he was willing to sacrifice himself to make his friend come back to the way he used to be. Or when he stood against Thanos' armies, injured, battered, beaten, alone, yet he didn't fail and he didn't surrender. Or the time when he was in that plane, the plane that had the weapons of mass destruction that could destroy the world itself. And he decided to sacrifice himself to plunge that giant ship into the ice, leaving his love of his life behind. How amazing was that? And there were so many other small moments that amounted to inspiring tales that we all garner and refer back to on every time. And this film, you know, despite having massive weight to all these decisions and a bleak environment that required inspiring characters to uplift the world, it didn't really land. I don't think there was a single time in here where I felt inspired or moved to become a better person or to want these guys on my team necessarily. It was a very depressing environment most of the movie, and I actually kind of enjoyed that aspect of this. But at the same time, even by the end of it, it wasn't a home run. It didn't land. And these characters, they did not have that Marvel impact that I'm used to seeing with Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man especially. Imagine that. Imagine how you felt watching him bloom and make those choices to be the best person he can be, despite the outcome, despite the pain and the trials he would go through. And these guys go through trials, and they have a really tough time, and they make some terrible, well, they don't make terrible decisions. They have to make terrible decisions, or that's what's up against them, yet they think things out. And it just didn't have the same weight. They didn't bring the same value to it. And that's a huge problem with this. And that's why I give this movie a 6 out of 10. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you feel this way? Were you inspired by these characters? I know Sue Storm, kind of tried to have a few moments like that. It just didn't land for me. Maybe it landed for you. Let me know in the comments below. But at the end of the day, I appreciate you watching the video. If you liked what I had to say, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It makes a really big difference. And I'd love if you shared this video with anybody else that's interested in maybe checking out the movie. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I appreciate you always, and I'll see you next time. Oh, wait, probably like an 8-minute video.